Okay, let's start off with our first presenter. Joseph Stanhope Cialdella is an award-winning author of Motor City Green, A Century of Landscapes and Environmentalism in Detroit, which uncovers the histories of the city's green spaces as they are made and remade from the late 19th century to the 21st. Importantly, he argues that cities like Detroit have been long-standing sites of green space agriculture and grassroots environmentalism. He is currently the senior program manager at the University of Michigan, where he oversees the Rackham program in public scholarship. He is a former Enid Hoped Fellow at the Smithsonian Institution and a program officer at the Michigan Humanities Council, in which he co-led the nationally award-winning Heritage Grants program. And Joseph's favorite food is tomatoes in August, which is a good one. So please help me welcome our first presenter, Joseph Cialdella. It's a little staticky.
Thank you, Jessica, and all the organizers for inviting me and for that introduction. I really appreciate the opportunity to share a bit from my book about the history of growing food through community gardens and urban farms. As I'm sure most of you know, Detroit has a vibrant and diverse Detroit has a vibrant and diverse urban farming movement today. For these 5 minutes, I wanted to look farther back and begin with this 1895 image of a potato. This image was commissioned by Detroit Mayor Hazen S. Pingree to be the frontispiece to his autobiography that he wrote. The potato was significant for Pingree because it helped propel him into popularity and national notoriety. In 1893, an economic crisis had left many in Detroit unemployed, with recent Polish and German immigrants to the city being especially hard hit. With cries for bread or blood that could be heard outside of the Board of Public Works building, the city seemed ripe for unrest. For Mayor Pingree, devising a way to provide food to those acutely affected by the economic crisis was a priority. Pingree's idea, dubbed Pingree's potato patches by newspapers at the time, was to use some of the thousands of acres of vacant and idle lands in the city for subsistence gardens. Early in 1894, Pingree created Detroit's first agricultural committee and charged them with acquiring land, tools, and people willing to garden for food. Many were skeptical of Pingree's plan. Charges that potato bugs would invade the city abounded, alongside more practical concerns about the willingness of the city's unemployed to grow food for themselves and about who would donate land. Some opponents even claimed that it was simply a free land scheme. One editorial cartoon, printed in the Detroit Evening News, scoffed at the plan, suggesting that the state of Michigan change its motto from "If you seek a pleasant peninsula, look about you," to "If you seek a beautiful potato patch, look around you." So despite these concerns, the program moved forward, perhaps due in no small part to the fact that many were threatened with the loss of charity relief from the city if they did not participate. Although the program did not reach all of the city's unemployed, it was a relative success at meeting some subsistence needs. By 1896, the Agricultural Committee reported that over 7,000 people were beneficiaries of the Detroit Plan, with 12 different nationalities represented. The committee boasted that the land cultivated is scattered over a surface that was about 5 by 8.5 miles, and to visit all of the different sections in succession requires a journey of over 30 miles. So with this success, Pingree even proposed the city invest in a series of agricultural parks, as he termed them, to support the city's food system moving forward, though they were never built once he left office. Although exact numbers are difficult to determine, around 1,700 families, so groups of people, grew food on about 420 acres at the height of the program. But by 1901, participation tapered off, as you can see here on the screen. While just one small moment, Pingree's potato patches planted the seeds of possibility for future Detroiters who continued to imagine and create gardens as a community good. In 1918, not long after the memory of Pingree's potato patches had faded from civic memory, John and Elizabeth Cruz, African-American migrants from Alabama, settled in the city. In Detroit, many recent migrants let go of their gardening and fruit growing practices because urban life offered new opportunities to escape toiling on the land. Others, however, changed and adapted their horticultural practices. For example, the Crews moved to the outlying 8 Mile, Wyoming neighborhood where residents often had a different vision of their life in the city, raising chickens and growing gardens that often included vegetables such as the Kentucky Wonder green beans that the Crews canned and ate throughout the winter. Corn was also a common sight in the neighborhood, along with an informal system of community gardening. As one resident told a visitor, they had no trouble with stealing from their garden because they just planted a little more than they needed each year to take care of that. And alternately, if they ran low, they just grabbed a few ears of corn from somebody else's garden. We all know that, and we don't care. We're all friends here, is how they described it. So growing food in Detroit has deep roots, connected by generations of residents and communities who have worked to cultivate the land and give it meaning. When Pingree envisioned a network of permanent city-owned agricultural parks throughout Detroit in 1895, and when the Crews sustained themselves through gardens at the height of Detroit's industrial growth, neither would have likely imagined the scale of urban disinvestment from which Detroiters would again turn to growing food on an expansive network of gardens and farms across the city today. But they likely knew that growing food in Detroit was about more than subsistence. It was also the substance of imagination and hope for new ways of urban life in the struggle for a more just and sustainable city. Thank you, and if you'd like to learn more, you can check out my book, or I'm happy to talk and answer questions after. Thank you so much.